Welcome to Paradox TV. We are talking today about social media and how it affects brands that are trying to communicate with audiences. There are 60 million Facebook updates every day and 200 million tweets every day and 3 billion YouTube views every single day. And so brands or nonprofits or organizations, they see that and they really want to become part of that. And no longer are we in the realm of the monologue where you buy advertising and you kind of force the consumer to listen over and over again and then eventually relent and buy your product, but it's really about cultivating a relationship with them, which increases loyalty. This is something I've done for many, many years before anyone was talking about it, before Facebook existed. What I want to do is now look at the current landscape and take a step back and see what are some of the things that are being done correctly and what are some of the things that are problematic. One of them is resistance from the internal culture. If you're so accustomed to, you're the only one talking, you're telling the customer what you think, and you're not really equipped to engage in a dialogue with them, resistance actually is sometimes appropriate. The organization has to be ready for it. And I have a background in direct marketing, so I'm very interested in return on investment. How do you actually funnel people to taking an action? And again, Toyota has this campaign where they're getting you to tell your story about your experience with the Toyota Camry. And then they have a video on YouTube, but there's not a strong call to action to funnel you to an actual dealership or taking a test drive. Lack of resources, again, you need to make sure that there's internal resources to address this, or you'll see some of the problems that result. The technology is constantly changing, so being able to stay on top of that and having individuals or an agency or a consultant who is responsible for that is really important, otherwise you end up becoming behind the ball. And a lot of social media strategists will talk about how there's resentment and envy of the role, and I don't really see that as being a problem. I'm including it here just because it's something that I've come across other consultants talk about, and so just to make you aware of it. And then business demands start to increase as something becomes more effective and more burden because it's placed upon this channel, which is just one channel. So if you accept the premise that social media is going to affect how brands communicate and how organizations communicate with people, then there's really only two options, right? There's either being reactive, where you're becoming overwhelmed by the requests from customers and the comments of customers and from additional business units within the company, and maybe channel distribution networks are starting to comment, and you're just in reaction mode. Or you can be strategic and then you're proactive, and then you're staying ahead of the social media demands with actual having plans and innovative ideas and using it as an opportunity to engage and to learn about your product and how it's being received, but also engage with your customer to develop new products, to improve your marketing, and to create evangelists, to get people who really are going to support the brand. This bifurcation, right? You can either be proactive and you're going to achieve your escape velocity, you're going to have a scalable business program to deal with social media, or you're kind of just in reactive mode. And so there has to obviously be a faith that this media is in fact going to become part and parcel to all of your communications. If you don't accept that now, then you'll be in reactive mode, and it's not saying you can't catch up, but really having your vision ahead of where the times are can be extremely powerful to evolve your business, and then you can start to build a strategic plan. You can certainly revise that plan as technologies and demands change, and you're focusing on your goals and measurements. It's really about return on investment. It's really about having a call to action. So you're constantly, continually optimizing and evolving. And then social media becomes an integrated part of your business and less of a speciality. And you no longer have a consultant or an expert, but everyone who's involved with the product, it's now becomes an integrated part of your business, and it's not a speciality anymore. Our goal as social media consultants is to put ourselves out of business. And with many businesses, that should be the goal, to put yourself out of business. Here is their Facebook page. I don't know whether they created this or someone else created it. That's one of the other challenges, is that it's hard to control who's talking about it. You might look at the numbers and say, oh, it's great, 11,000 people have liked this page. But then you see what they have done is they've allowed other people to post and they have all these kind of crazy baby videos here. Now you see here's a very enterprising local dealership, Toyota of Huntington. They are using this to actually drive people to them. But it's not a very organized or concerted effort, and certainly competitors can go on that page and thank you for your branding and then pull people away. And they have a video and they're driving traffic to it with advertising on television and Hulu, and the video has been seen by 48,000 people. So again, if you're just focusing on numbers, you would say, oh, that's great, 48,000 people have watched it. But compared to the amount of money they've spent on advertising, I'm not sure that 48,000 is such a great number. And the primary driver to get you to watch the video or participate in the program is that they want you to tell you the story of your first date or your experiences with the car, which I think is a tricky thing. I don't have a definitive opinion on it yet. I have to do more research to determine that. But I think people are really looking for what they can do with the car, not necessarily reminiscing about what they've done with the car. And then, of course, if you go to the page, they haven't shut off the comments, or they're not filtering the comments, and so there's curse words on the page. So, and then there's people bad-mouthing the car. So not that effective on YouTube. The actual page that they're presenting, I think it does have some effectiveness because they have little sound bites from individuals. This one says, I really enjoy the power of the V6. So, and they have pictures of the people. He's owned 6 of them so far. And people are more apt to believe that these are true stories and may not think about the fact that the company itself is censoring what actual content they're putting up. You're not going to find any negative messaging about the company on their own website. There's something else, I'm not sure if they're behind it or not, but there's a website called MomStart, and she comes up high in the Google searching, and she talks about her experiences, and it's done in a very kind of amateurish way, and there's even ads on the side, which leads me to think that it's actually a legitimate posting. In terms of how many people are doing it, well, only 12 people have tweeted it and 15 people have shared it, but it's not all that interesting a story. And so I think one has to have a lot of creativity in terms of creating the strategy of how are we going to engage with customers, what are some of the possible problems that can happen if you open a dialogue, or do we have the staff and the strategy to address that? And that's really important. You look at recently McDonald's did a Twitter campaign and people were criticizing McDonald's on their own, using their own hashtags. Really have to be thinking 2 steps ahead, and it's a very new business, so people aren't necessarily experienced in imagining what might go wrong. And so having consultants or agencies or in-house people who have researched it and actually have been burned themselves a few times to begin to understand what's going on. One of the ideas that we talked about at the internet many years ago is the person who's successful is the one who has failed faster. In other words, that it's a new realm, and so there are control systems that will allow you to monitor these things, and there should be an employee who's looking at any kind of curse words, shut off those references immediately, and when there's legitimate beef with the company, it's an opportunity for you to talk about some of the assets that the company has to offer.